Sanbonani, I am Dr. Gcina Mhlophe from the Gcina Arts and Heritage Trust. This is one of our spaces here. And I'd like to talk about the visit we had in Sutherland in the Northern Cape at the observatory. I think it had such an impact on us. It hit us so hard, and we came back still dazed with the experiences that we had there. But I would like to start at the beginning and thank Noel Koch from the Nature, Environment and Wildlife Filmmakers, they are called NUF, to have found funding to sponsor our trip to Sutherland, from the flight to renting a car and traveling to Sutherland from Cape Town by road. And I think when we got there, there was Kimi Rudi, there was also Emmy, and we also had Nomakwezi from the Gcina Arts and Heritage Trust. We had also Nomputuko Zagaza, another one of my favorite storytellers. She's from Etsomo. She lives in East London now, in the Eastern Cape. And then we also had Mr. Ntutuko Kuzwayo. Ntutuko Kuzwayo, he's a person who loves doing history telling. He's that kind of storyteller. And so we wanted to go together with more people, because the first time I went to Sutherland, I went alone. I went with Sivuile, Mangoi, as well as Buzani Kumalo. They work for SAO, the South African Astronomical Observatory. And when I went with them the first time, there was another musician who came with us from the Cape Flats who traveled to Sutherland, and we performed for the youth of Sutherland. We told stories, we played music, and the children danced. It was just an amazing, amazing evening. But this time going, it was different, because I wanted to experience this for the second time, and I didn't want to be the only one who's been there. I thought, let's have more people so that we have more of this amazing experience. When you think of us winning the bid of this astronomy center, this observatory in the most amazing place of South Africa, in Sutherland, a place that has got the clearest skies, where you can observe all these planets and the stars and the moons and suns, all of that with such clarity. It was something that I thought I need to have more people to experience with me. I noticed many more things, of course, than I experienced the first time. And number two, I thought about the people that were with me, where they were in their lives. Sometimes the tensions and the stresses of real life experience, they come with you, and you get there and you come down. And as you come down and you're taken to outer space in more ways than you can imagine, it was something special. They kept saying thank you, for having had this experience. And people of different age groups as well. I'm big on intergenerational dialogue and experiences. And in that place, we took many pictures. We met more local people. We were able also to interact with another young man who I'll never forget. You know, Patrick van Wyk was phenomenal, the way he guided us. And he had so much knowledge. He was so gentle. He was so keen to answer our questions. And when he told us that he didn't go out to become an astronomer, he wanted to start a business. And then this astronomy internship showed up, and he went there. So I'm done with business. I'm staying here with the stars. And when he stayed there, he can't wait to share the knowledge he has accumulated with anybody who wants to ask, who wants to know. And we were very, very fascinated by that, to think this young man feels so good, is so inspired by what astronomy has to offer for our country. So that's another experience I really would like to talk about. And then another experience was meeting Jeremy. Jeremy, such a generous soul, such a calm person, such a humble human being who wanted to know where we come from, what are we doing here, what work are we doing, and then we had bombarded him with many questions. I remember him changing the schedule, because the first night we were supposed to have the stargazing, but we couldn't because we were delayed in Cape Town, and then we arrived late. All kinds of things happened, but he allowed us to have the observatory on another date, the stargazing. I remember us in that beautiful structure, which we didn't understand what it was when we first arrived. And then it went away on the railings, almost like the railings of a train, and it moved, and the roof opened for us, and the stars were there for all of us to experience. And then there were these telescopes, different size telescope, and we could see the different types of constellations of stars, and the three stars that go in a row. We call them Amakosa, and there are others called Silimela, and then there are those that are also called the Seven Sisters. We remember them from different times of our lives as African people. Time to go hunting, time to go and plant seeds in the ground when you are living in the village, or the stars that led people home when they were lost, if they were traveling at night. You know, people used to travel to Johannesburg by foot, and they traveled and they traveled and they traveled. They had to remember which side is east, which side is west, and that is north, and they are going north. And there were stars that guided them, and they fell asleep and they woke up and they continued walking. I remember our people would arrive at a certain place on the journey and be grateful that they were alive, they were not devoured by wild animals, and that the stars have guided them. And that also, we thank the Almighty God, we thank our ancestors. And so, there is a song that says, when you don't see me, my children, always look at the sky. When you see the stars and the moon and the sun, that's where I will be, looking down upon you. Often too, we think of those constellations up in the sky and all those heavenly beings being part and parcel of our departed, being with us. So there's lots of communication that is passed on from generation to generation, where these stars, this astronomy is concerned. I think also when we were up there and looking at the moon, I think that's one of the things that hit us so hard, looking at the moon. My goodness, it was like you could almost touch the moon. It was so real, so vivid, so emotional for all of us. It was really, really emotional for all of us. And I remember some of the stars, we thought they're just a few. Once you look at the observatory, at the telescope, there were many more around, but with the naked eye, you couldn't. And so we thought about all of these experiences. We thought a lot of what we assume we know, it's not really the way it really is. Sometimes you need that guidance from people who know, even in real life, whether you've studied a certain subject or not. There are people who've lived and experienced and traveled and had a career in that chosen path that you're going. And when they tell you what has happened in their lives, you look again, you say, I chose well. This is my career. That's where I'm going. The same thing happened to us when we looked at all of those stars. We felt so good. It was freezing cold later on. I thought, my goodness, I'm going to get sick. But it was worth every second, every second. Our hearts were doing somersaults inside. I remember the following day going to the observatory space that was put aside for local people, that they could go there and have a quiet time. It's got all the geometric shapes with steel rods, and what above it is a dome, and you can see through in the sky, and apparently they can go there and sit down. For me, the tears came at that time. I really, really started crying. I started thinking, how is it that they need to have, the local people, a separate space? Is it for accessibility, or is it something that is good enough for them? I wasn't sure what was the plan. But for me, sitting there, I cried also because I thought, I wonder which elders have come here. Have they come alone? Have they come with the members of their family or of the community? What have they talked about? Are there any of the first peoples of South Africa who have sat inside that rondavel with that observatory shape looking at the stars? Have they come there? Have they experienced the ownership of the place? And the separateness, what was it? I cried, I prayed, I sang. I felt it was good that they were thought about, but also I felt the separateness takes us back to those times of apartheid that we come from. I think that is one of the things that inspired Tutuko Kuzwayo to say, let's step aside. Let's look at this flat area near this observatory that is geared to welcome the local people. Let's put a collection of stones here. Every one of us, let's take a stone, breathe on it or spit on it, leave your DNA and put it on the ground and say, we were here the delegation from KwaZulu-Natal was here. And we made what we call isivivane. Isivivane is a collection of stones that grows and grows as more people come. And isivivane is a way of saying we are grateful. We've come this far. And we are grateful that others will come too and put a stone here. I'm hoping that every time people go to Sutherland and they go to the place that is put aside for local people, they'll be able to put a stone there. That they will pray, they will chant, they will say the family praise names, they will sing, they'll talk to the Almighty God, they will talk to the ancestors, they'll talk to all the powers and the spirits that be. I felt so good to have been able to travel with my daughter. Because when I have all of these experiences and I'm thinking, what would she think? How would she feel about what we've experienced here? And I was so happy to see her looking at her namesake, the star that is called Ikwezi, Iqange, Indonsakusa. That Indonsakusa, that Venus, that star that pulls the sun in the morning saying, come, it's your turn, come, come, come. That beautiful star that she's named after. I was so happy to watch her watching her namesake up in the sky. What a blessing, what a gift. And so I was also happy to be able to experience the storytelling session we had with the children at the school, the primary school, and also the high school. We went to the boarding school because the high school was out by the time we got there. The children talked about the observatory, but they were curious about the storytelling. They were curious. You write books for children. Who are you? Where do you come from? I was able to share all of that, and the fact that they don't have a library doesn't matter. I still have to donate some of my books and other people's books to lay a foundation. Like we lay a foundation for Isivivane, one can lay a foundation for a library at that primary school we went to in Sutherland. So for me, everything I do, I always think about the future generations. I think of our children, and that's why I keep saying, until we see a brighter future in our children's eyes, not much of what we do today has any value. So we have to continue doing these visits and to many other places of historical and heritage significance, and make sure we share that knowledge with our future generations, because we don't have a right to criticize them when they are pulled and dragged in every direction, honoring other people's cultures overseas and not knowing theirs, unless we have planted the seeds in them to feel good about their Africanness, about the wealth, the richness of our heritage. And so let's love them enough. Let's love them enough to plant those seeds again and again and again, long after I've passed on and many of us have gone. Those children and their children's children, their children's children, their experiences, their contributions will be rising like seeds germinating in the ground. It will be like the stars coming into vision, into focus in the sky that we get to see, because they don't just suddenly become visible at the same time. And that Milky Way will be the journey that takes the children of Africa to a better future. Siyabonga.